Good afternoon, all. This is Jason Kuntz with Christian Apologetics, boldly proclaiming Jesus. And I'm on my way back with my oldest son from an appointment in Bangor. And I just wanted to get on here and talk to you while I was driving about something that really hits home to me, that is really close to my heart. And it's dealing with loss as a Christian. What happens when your prayers aren't answered the way you want them to be? What happens when the worst happens? Where's God in that for us? And this is something that happened to my wife and I over 12 years ago at this point. And it's one of the worst losses you can imagine. And that's when we lost our son Dominic. I remember it very clearly. I got home from work. My wife was 24 weeks pregnant. We were excited. We had just lost her father 6 months prior. We thought this was, God giving us a gift. He was going to bless us. He was with a newborn child in the family, and it was a new beginning. So I got home that evening, just as I would any other, got ready to hang out with my wife and things, and she kept saying, I don't feel right. I have this major headache. I have flashing in my vision. And I said, well, we'll see how you feel in the morning, and go from there. And no, she was adamant, says, I gotta go now, something's wrong. So we went to the emergency room, and they hooked her up to a heart monitor, and they were very concerned something was not right. And the next day they shipped us off to a bigger hospital in Bangor, Maine, and the OB there, the team of them really says, well, you're very sick and your baby's very sick. You have severe preeclampsia, where it constricts the vessels to the baby, and it makes her very sick because it tries to draw more of the blood flow of what she needs. So both of their lives are very much in danger. It was life-threatening for both of them. And so they gave us a few options that we could wait and see if she comes out of it. But if we waited, they may have to rush and do an emergency C-section, and those things can go wrong. Or we can try a natural birth, but that would have ended our son's life immediately because he was only 24 weeks. He wasn't able to live, able to handle a natural birth because it's very rough on the baby. And we had a third option that we could do a C-section right then when they're ready for it. And so that's what my wife and I chose. And we went from, happy, joy, blessed, to the next day, she was on the operating table having an emergency C-section, and our son was born. And I remember looking over at him because they had her on the table, and I was right beside her head, trying to comfort her while I was falling apart inside. And I saw the NICU working on him, and he wasn't breathing right off, and it took almost a full 2 minutes for him to breathe. And this is still very hard to talk about. They were very concerned. They told us that it was a gray area where he was in terms of weeks. Sometimes they survive, but more than often not, the chances are unlikely that he would survive. But we were under the mindset that we were going to give his life a chance. We were going to give him a shot at life. And that's what we did. We made the decision to do the C-section, and he was, alive for a while. And he was in the NICU, and we could see him through a little glass box. It was plastic, and he was born at under a pound. He wasn't even a pound yet. And his body was purple. He had all these little tubes on him. And it was really a sad sight. And I remember very clearly the first time my wife was able to come in, because she had a major surgery. This wasn't just a normal C-section. This was done the old-fashioned way, where they, do a full surgery. And so she had to wait for a while, and she had to also stabilize herself because her blood pressure was very high. Like I said, her life was very much in danger. And so I remember the first time that she was able to see him was a day or so later, and his numbers were all over the place when she went in. His pulse, his heart, all that stuff was all over the place, and they allowed us to reach her little fingers in and touch his little hand. And the moment she did that, his numbers